In today's gospel, we hear a story about a leader, a member of the Sanhedrin Council, someone who is highly respected by his peers and the people. And he decides that he is going to go visit Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. And his name is Nicodemus. And John tells us in tonight's gospel that Nicodemus goes to visit Jesus at night. Now, why would Nicodemus decide to go and see Jesus at night? I was reading several commentaries, and some said perhaps he had a job during the day and had no time. Perhaps he had other commitments. Perhaps he was afraid of losing having his reputation damaged or being attacked by the people. And then John is very clear about his metaphors of night and light, or darkness and light. And I was looking up the word night on Google to see what meanings came up under night. Night is not only a physical time of day, but the word night can also connote for us a meaning of insecurity, doubt, fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, the unknown. And so for John, Nicodemus going at night was more than simply going somewhere physically at night, but there was also a feeling of emptiness within him, a feeling of void. And he was yearning to have this void filled. He was suffering with this emptiness feeling, not sure what it was, where it was, but it hurt him, and he wanted it to go away. So he goes to see Jesus, Jesus, to learn more about him. And Jesus challenges Nicodemus to open his eyes and go beyond the externals of the law and the teachings of the Torah, to go deeper and to open his eyes to going inside into a deeper relationship with Jesus, with God, who loves him, who cares about him. Like Nicodemus, we sometimes too experience that moment of darkness in our own lives. Maybe it's the darkness of fear of rejection, fear of failure. Maybe it's that darkness of guilt. We keep going to confession over the same sin. And maybe it's because we can't forgive ourselves and we become very scrupulous over that particular sin. Maybe it's the guilt, the darkness of loneliness. Maybe it's the darkness of feeling guilty or afraid or uncertain because our children have left the faith. Maybe we're struggling with questions about our own faith and we don't seem to be going anywhere. And we're feeling this empty feeling, this pain, this void deep inside. And we're yearning, we're thirsting for something more, and we can't name it. Several years ago, when I was discerning a vocation, I experienced this darkness in my own life. I kept feeling this call, this feeling inside that God was calling me to be a priest. But I wasn't absolutely sure. And in my prayers, I kept asking God to let me know, yes or no, whether He wanted me to become a priest, to give me some sign. And as I was looking at different communities and dioceses, nothing was appealing. And I remember I spoke to the vocation director of the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, and he said to me, he walked with me, and he said to me, yes, I believe you have a vocation. And I went through the interview process in Chicago, and he said to me, well, you can quit your job. You can go to St. Louis and begin your studies. And I remember I was really uncertain whether God was calling me to this. And I was struggling with the fear of what if this is not what God's calling me to do? What if this is wrong? I was afraid of failure. And I was so anxious, so concerned that I had never felt this feeling before. I was becoming very restless. And I started working more, started avoiding home. I even procrastinated with packing because I was so uncertain. And it got so bad that I stopped. It was hard to eat and sleep. I felt alone. I felt no one could understand me. And I was in so much pain, again, looking everywhere to escape this pain. It was not until there was nowhere else to run. That in running, I could not hear God speaking to me in the silence. Not telling me yet what I was called to do or to be, but to tell me, I carved you out of the palm of my hand. You are precious to me. And in my prayer, when I tried to block out all those other voices of rejection, of doubt, of fear, I was able to hear that voice, that silent, gentle, comforting voice saying to me, you are mine, and I will be with you. In our lives, we have all gone through that dark moment. Whether it be with a son or daughter who has left the church and we feel responsible, and we feel lost, we feel alone. Maybe it's our struggles, our anger with God, that we have had all these prayers and they're not being answered. And we become so restless. We keep wanting to do things and we're feeling this pain. We keep asking God for something. And we feel we're not being answered. And we keep going to confession for the same thing because of guilt, of shame. And we're running. And we get restless. And Thomas Merton says, it's okay to get restless. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's human to become restless. However, in our restlessness, we struggle to hear that gentle, soft voice that says to us, I love you. You are mine. And the word Henry Nouwen uses is stronger than I love you. God calls us his beloved, his special people. He carves us out of the palm of his hand. And so we believe that even when we feel God has abandoned us, when we feel that sense of loneliness, that sense no one cares, that sense that no one is there, God is carrying us in his hands, calling us, inviting us to open our eyes and recognize who we are. Not the rejected, not the forgotten, but God's chosen people, his beloved. And so tonight, as we go through the ritual with water and we feel that water coming upon our hands, let us imagine God showering us tonight with his love, calling us his beloved, his special chosen people.